guys, thank you so much for joining me. Polina here, talking to you about this full moon in Virgo that is coming up on the 26th of February. So first of all, we do have a conjunction with Lilith. So the moon will be coming through and conjuncting with Juno and Lilith as she opposes the sun, or just after she opposes the sun actually. So it's going to be a very, very healthy moon. And it's really hard to withstand certain pressures. There's a lot of possession. There's a lot of emotion. Sometimes people count on you to do things that you didn't probably want to do. And sometimes people do not really give respect to the person that didn't come out on top. Like, for example, a person that is irresponsible or disrespectful may not necessarily have their rights, or may not necessarily have a certain standpoint with other people. So it's very judgmental. It's very rough for some people, as we do have the sun close to Saturn and Mercury, and it is going to be very, very, very harsh for certain people to get things done and to be in the winning position, because there is a lot of judgment, and some of the time it is very hard to see eye to eye or face to face. So if things are escalating, or if things escalate for you, so for example, if you sometimes have bad behavior, or you make big points with people, and if you like to argue, or you are always unconsciously somehow bringing in arguments into your life, I would say very, very, very careful scaling during this moon, very careful changes, because it could be maybe only you that has to face facts, jurisdiction, facing facts, facing judgments, also having to be scanned, for example, paperwork being scanned. You may be scanned or searched, for example, having a police search during this time, or somebody may want to surveil you or scan you. On the upper hand, this is a perfect energy for critical thinking. It's perfect for people that do like to do their research, and people that want to say goodbye to a whole bunch of problems or certain attitudes. For example, it is very interesting and very quick and sudden how things can get done here. It's very, very fast to get adjusted. For example, chiropractic appointments with a very healthy and knowledgeable chiropractor would be very, very healthy for you during this time. Doing things very quickly, applying critical thinking and being just, checking paperwork, checking facts. It is a wonderful moon for destroying things as well, because Saturn actually is a powerful destructive force. It's not just a building force, it is also very good for knocking things down that don't have to be. So for example, you're noticing that you are wearing too many accessories, or you are too obsessive about like a certain type of film or a certain type of series that you're constantly watching. Maybe you are too possessive or too emotional, and sometimes it is really, really good to get adjusted by other people. It's great to see a psychologist or psychiatrist or a doctor or a shrink, somebody that can help you weed out these processes. And it's also nice to do it by yourself and just saying no, like all of a sudden saying no to smoking, all of a sudden saying no to doing things that you don't want to do, and also being by people, standing by people, or being around certain places that don't necessarily see you through. So you can also tell people off. You can say no to certain people. You can say, I'm not buying this, or I'm not paying this. It is easy here to take a look at what you've got going on in your city. It is very, very nice to see what you have going on in your town, because Saturn is really good for buildings and structures as well. Large conglomerates of people potentially, or like say churches and universities. It's really nice to see if you want to enroll yourself in a certain organization, if you want to be a part of a big global future, as we do have this Venus-Mars conjunction close to Pluto in Aquarius. If you want to be known, or if you want to be seen centered very well in a social sense, this could be done here and now. So for example, opening a social media account, if it is very efficient and it's very business, doing things with people all over the place to make your career grow and to make you feel more adequate and established, yeah, sure. And some people don't have to work so hard, they don't have to seek out their next step or their next stepping stone, they can just see it already. So for the more mature audience, come what may, things are already starting to be gelled. If you are, for example, retired, you might already know everything left, right and center. You might already have a complete vision, complete mission in your life. It may be already set up. So in a mature person's life, or a person that thinks in a very mature way, this is all great and probably entirely up to you. So the wonderful thing about being organized, the great thing about being grounded and mature and very earthy, is that you can be anywhere you want to be. But it just kind of will maybe take you some time. So it's just about organization. It's about having smooth territories. It's about having smooth contact with people. It's about having no hiccups, making no mistakes. It's about not going around in circle. It's about not standing any chaos and just having a nice, simple, chronolinear experience, which is wonderful if you're a person of methods, and if you're a person of culture or tribe or sequence, that's wonderful. So what I mean, Virgo, especially during this time, and the Saturn in the sky being in the center stage now, is very, very good. Like this combination is very, very good for example, mayors and principals. It's very good for people that are very adjusted and have a sturdy, safe knowledge bank. It's very, very good for people that have a very skeptical and very mathematical prism in mind, and also people that have done work, that have spent the time and also got rid of whatever wasn't happening for them in their world. So for example, for a recovering addict or for a recovered addict, it's a perfect time. For a person that used to have nothing and now has everything, the false promises are also seen. Are you promising yourself some false promises? Did you also potentially promise something to somebody and did not deliver? Fools and liars also could be seen very quickly today, also with this moon being conjunct Lilith. Sometimes it is very easy to see and to tell when somebody else has not got the point. It's very, very simple and easy to also adjust one another and say, hey, are you here, like, for example, being judgmental? You shouldn't be judgmental. First, work out your own life. Or are you here being foolish? Or have you been drinking? You know, so it's very interesting. It's about ironing things out. It's about getting adjusted. It's about adjusting other people. And I know it is very boring, but in certain situation, there is probably going to be a lot of justice and respect given to some people, and they're going to have an upper hand, and certain other people are going to be worried. So for example, if you are in an uneven group of people that favors only some people and doesn't favor others, is going to become very obvious. People having very big judgments and views based on what they think is right, and also things to do with property, anything to do with crime, anything to do with money, anything to do with systems and solving problems is going to be very, very big, and is going to come to light for probably many people. So kind of like quite a, how could I say, quiet moon as well, because Virgo is a tiny sign. It is about contraction, and it also is about ideologies and beliefs. So this opposition between the full-on dreamer Pisces and this very, very concise and very significant seeking Virgo, it's a very, very nice time for also separation and understanding where things are not just. Also, I should probably note, we have Fortune next to South Node retrograde in Libra, and the North Node is right on Chiron, almost right on Chiron. There's Eros also, of course, close to the North Node there. So what this tells me is that people are supposedly in a good place if they are just able to see it being here and now already. So people don't have to go chasing waterfalls. People shouldn't need to necessarily be breathtaking or next level to achieve their life results, although I am seeing a lot of people wanting to conceive miracles, which is what Pisces does sometimes, also with this Mercury causing some acceleration to the Sun and Saturn. There are certain individuals that want everything at once, or they want to get to know something very, very different, or they want to be sometimes around very unique and different groups. And sometimes there's altruism, sometimes there's religious or spiritual creed, and occasionally this could be just things are feeling worse to wear, but they cannot admit that they are, so they go on looking for some kind of meaning. And yes, idealism, and to a degree it is about faith. As I've said earlier in the previous videos, it is good to find a certain center point for faith and belief during these times by the end of the month, as we do kind of look a little bit unstable maybe to each other, or we look very willy-nilly to each other, very woolly, if we don't have a certainty. So also some of the time a certainty can be found through a structure such as a home. Saturn can sometimes rule buildings and homes, buildings, structures, universities, grand conglomerates of people, big schools, big environments where people meet. Also anything in the name of, like for example, in the name of the country, in the name of the law, in the name of a certain ethnic group or certain nationality. It is a very, very simple way for certain people to find their bearings and their standing if they cling or latch on to something else a little bit stronger or more sentimental to them. So some people are latching on to the young. For example, they want to teach the young and they want to be that center point for them, that elder for other people. Certain people are not doing that. They are looking for mommy or daddy, or they're looking for some kind of a associative body of people to help them feel strong and feel deep. So in a sense, I feel as we go into Pisces, there are going to be some waves. It's a very watery sign, of course, obviously, and to a degree, sometimes people want something more mature than them to take care of them, or some of the time, in a rare case, they want to be that mature person that takes care of someone else. But be careful though, because in Pisces nothing is sure, and for sure some very good things can get washed out, some very, very strange behavior can occur, because it is not supportive. Pisces is not really meant to be a supportive sign. Saturn and Pisces is a rare, strange phenomena or occurrence. So there is kind of grossness or weirdness in the air. Some people are very, very incredibly judgmental of one another. Gossip seems to be on the cards. Gossip is actually a very big deal during a dragon year. It's kind of like being at high school all over again. If you didn't get what you wanted, if you don't feel very good, if you feel you've missed out, sometimes gossip will fill that void that usually should not be escaped. It should just be maybe rather filled with your own deeds and your own magic rather than talking about somebody else. So definitely, although Rabbit here has been kind of very confusing and very deranged sometimes, 2023 was very deranged in terms of how people talked about each other and sometimes what got them feeling emotional about somebody else or themselves or their circumstance. It is no good for us. So if you are gossiping, if you are looking online, if you are also sensually or emotionally titillated by other people, or you are looking out for media that makes you feel fine about yourself because of how you look at another person or something that another person has done, I would close that void, I would close that gap. Try to fill that space between you and yourself with other things. For example, cleanses. Although Lilith is in Virgo, it's probably not the best. It's not the best time for cleansing, but sometimes it is good to watch your diet, see how things land. It is really good to pay attention to the sequencing and the mathematics of your world, as we did just grow through Aquarius, and it is about sequencing, it is about logic, and it is about strength and strategies. And then after this, yeah, I know that we've passed on into Pisces already, and it's not that maybe interesting for us to be entirely mind-made or self-made. To some degree, I feel there are murmurs, and they're like the shaky grounds where nothing really is real anymore. It is really great for us, for all people, to get rid of these things that we go to make us feel grand. And of course, that's the territory of addictive behavior, of surprises, of secrecy, of sexuality that has lost its point or its center. It is good not to be a part of a group of people or a gang, which is very likely for certain individuals, certain younger individuals or young at heart individuals, certain gang which makes you feel so amazing, but it actually doesn't have anything to do with you. So for example, going to gigs, showing off, showing up, like wearing the garb, speaking the lingo, and then inevitably eventually not feeling anything, or not feeling like you would have been helped by those particular people. So it's definitely to do with fashion. Lilith sometimes talks or speaks of fashion, fashionable garb, fashionable language, being somebody else for a day just to feel all right. So all of these like little band-aids and all of these wounds that we have sometimes since we were born, because mother didn't look at us, didn't care, father had something else to do always, you know, so there are always going to be these weird waves and wake-up calls all throughout a dragon year telling you you don't need this anymore. And sometimes it is childish behavior, sometimes it is scoping out competition even though you don't know that you're doing this. Sometimes it is making friends because they look good in front of other people. Obviously that can happen. And some of the time it is about danger and danger zones, and often the danger is not necessarily within yourself, it is just with not knowing how to use your agility, not knowing how to use your brain, how to use your frequency, how to use your inertia, not necessarily inertia, how to use your force, because a lot of dragon year is about maturity, and it is about being a great human being. It's about being a complete package in terms of who you are, where you've come from, and what you've come to do here, basically. So that's a very much weight, like that's a lot of weight, that is a lot of stress, and some of it is already dislodging. There is usually a feeling of illness or sickness to Pisces. There's usually a feeling of like non-commitment, like, oh, you guys, I got to stay in bed, I got to stick it out, or I can't be with you right now, I can't face the day, or like, I don't want to get myself into it. So this kind of like very also sometimes feminine logic that Pisces brings in of wishing to do things the slower way, or wishing to do things that are more not necessarily contained. It's like wanting to avoid trouble or wanting to avoid trauma, feeling safe, like this kind of safety seeking, or the sense of being tired, or even, you know, having the old age catch up with you, which is what Pisces sometimes does during these degrees, especially with Saturn right next to the Sun. It's so hard. There is a good feeling and a good reason why we don't want to be there, why we can't show up, why we don't want to work anymore, why we don't want to work out, why we don't want to give back. And some of it is definitely about retention, retaining knowledge, information, because there is a little stellium between Mars, Venus and Pluto behind the Sun and the 12th house to the Sun. And that means that on occasion people will withstand the pressure or the curiosity to go and drive themselves because they got something else, and sometimes it's something very unclean. For example, I want to go where I want to go. I don't want to tell anybody where I'm going, and I don't want them to notice me. So for example, feeling sneaky, feeling displaced or discompassionate, not wanting anybody else to know what you're thinking, feeling or doing. Secrecy, also with Lilith next to the Moon, is quite a huge thing of the times, and it is going to be very, very hard for some people to get evolved or romantic enough about their daily life to really be able to withstand these secrets. You know, it's like, I want the secret more than I want my own life. For example, I want a secret relationship more than I want my current family. That is very, very difficult. So the joy is gone. So like, what can I say? Secrets sneaking around, come what may, not wanting to tell anybody what's actually going on with you, making sure that your friends and family don't know what's up. For example, also sneaking, like stealing, or making something important or appropriate for you under the guise is going to disempower you later. And I know this is the end of the zodiac, and for certain people is going to be happy and kind of even combustible, like it is going to make you laugh, having have cheated, for example, or stole. Some people might feel like a very little version or part of them is giggling when these things are happening. It's like, I don't want to be a part of this anyway. I don't care. I'm just going to, like, for example, smoke a lot of weed or take a lot of drugs, you know. So there are a lot of people wanting to basically evade. And there is a big feeling of, I don't care. I'm going to do what I want anyway. We have to be careful. We've got to stop that, because if you are to grow, this is a year of real true velocity of spirit. It is a year to see how far we've come, what we came to do. It is a year to be maybe very, very faithful. It is also a year to be kind and humble, but yet again to rise on top of the previous situations, to be above. It's about rising. It's about being able to rise. Like, if you can, rise and dragon year. So inevitably you don't have things take you down so low. And if people are already really low and they're kind of on the down low and they're trying really hard to evading certain, I don't know, like jurisdiction, evading debt, like paying debts, you know, evading humiliation, evading certain people, evading responsibilities and such, is going to be a very dark little year. Or sometimes it might get dark, so let's not make this part of the journey. If there is sneaking around or behaviors and such that are just not unsightly. And yeah, so while we're talking about this, let's talk about the opposite. Let's talk about cleanliness, you know, understanding corruption, understanding why things have gone the way they've gone, you know. So, for example, you know, I've been looking at my affairs online, you know, been looking at certain software and found some bugs in my software, and I was like, I'm so happy that I found them, you know. So, like, maybe you have certain things happening around you that are bugged. Maybe, for example, by eating and drinking unhealthy foods, you are constantly pushing yourself down, and it's so easy to debunk yourself today. You know, for example, if you have a thief, you'll probably find them very quickly. If you have somebody taking your time, or if you have or have had recently somebody give you completely false promises, is going to be pretty dire, but it is definitely going to help you grieve it out today. And it might be in just 1 hour you solve something, as Mercury is an accelerator, and we do have Saturn close to the Sun, all in a bunch there in a stellium. So it's going to be very, very easy and simple for you to weed out whatever is going on or whatever has come to be. So it's not necessarily about choices, but sometimes options come because you have locked something out, or you have closed something off. For example, you got rid of a certain situation that was draining or leeching your time, or you got rid of certain experiences in your life that you now feel are impossible, especially if they're just tides, you know, tides that go round and round and round and round, and karmas, they don't have to return. And of course we do have Fortune next to South Node in Libra. Sometimes unbeknownst to yourself, dire situations and very uncomfortable and informal and corrupt situations, or things that just like, are you kidding me? Why is this happening? Like that, are you kidding me? Can be stopped in its tracks. Not for everybody, not for all of us, but for people that have themselves together, that have their solar plexus switched on, and that really know that they are not sure sometimes, or they're not connected to their bodies because of something going on in their world. It's kind of easy to catch a thief, or it is kind of simple to see where things are just not good. So that's basically the good thing. It's about having scrupulous, discerning eyes. And yes, sometimes it is about the sergeant, or like the member of police, or a member of some kind of organization being able to carefully look at the paperwork, or carefully look over what is actually going on and really get you. So for example, also, if you are really afraid and you're evading fraud, careful. So I said earlier in 2023, in 2023, Rabbit Year was very kind of not necessarily good. It was good for example, police and the armed force in terms of numbers, Like, for example, they would have been big conglomerates and numbers of people working together, solving issues. Now is the time more of the experienced people. Dragon is about experience, so you are not looked at by, for example, a formal gathering or group of people. You are looked at by the expert, which is sometimes hurtful and painful. If we have experts in the audience, you probably know what that is. Maybe before it took you 5 or 6 days to understand something, now it takes you like a split second. And that means that also crime was definitely on the rise, and I did mention it a lot in 2023. Also hacking, system hacking, all of this really crazy, spooky action at a distance, goofy stuff happening. That was happening definitely to many people in the world. Then here you have a more abrupt and more maybe corrupt system, and also you have a more savvy and more worthy expert. So this is like about the big prey and the giant huntsman. So it's kind of like about the Superman taking down the woolly mammoth. You know, so there is definitely an idea, I suppose, there, like energetically an idea of giving back to the expert. And I did bring this up in the previous new moon in Aquarius. I did bring up that quite a lot of people are wanting to not necessarily show off, but are wanting to step up as the hero, as the Hercules, or like the giver in their village. For example, they're standing up for their ethnic rights. Maybe they're standing up for their wisdom or the wisdom of their ancestors. People are trying to hold conglomerates and groups of people together, come what may. And sometimes we do have the unforeseen hero. We definitely have people like tackling people in the street. You know, the unforeseen hero, the one that can pull out the plug or that can rescue, you know, like a person from a burning building, you know, which is the extreme vision of Virgo. It's like extreme service and extreme selflessness, you know. So selflessness, this is when people just get completely beguiled by the cause. It's like, I will do anything for this person, or I will do anything to bring peace to my village, you know. So this is very harmful as well. Sometimes people can overstep it, so this depends. So sometimes people can literally become expert in a heartbeat. That's really crazy. Sometimes people here, because also of the acceleration that Virgo offers within itself, because a very contracted, compact kind of energy, there could be something going on that is very untrue, or something that is very dirty or messy or just crazy, and then something comes up and saying, I'm gonna take care of this. And sometimes you can see kids do this as well. Kids protecting their family members, kids protecting each other. There is a hero born in some people during this time, but it is not always a worthy hero. So for example, if you can imagine a little kid trying to take down a big bully, it's not a good feeling sometimes, but that also happens. So, you know, like there is a feeling of Kundalini rising. And we see these mysterious videos sometimes of a person in the gust of fear or the gust of inertia lifting up a car because it has somebody underneath it, like somebody's been jammed by a car, and a person, even a woman, can like lift a car with one arm because of the sudden need, sudden inertia. So this is like a huge Kundalini burst, and it can sometimes be given to you very easily, very well, if you're an expert, and if you understand now that apart from all this paperwork and all this repetitive thinking and all of this like stuff that is happening in your world and all of these bits of paper, you know, like bits and bobs, there's like somebody birthed or bursts, that bursts open, bursts free from within all of this kind of mismatched storytelling, and then it just says, right, this is how. And that's a very, very big, powerful and kind of like scary energy. It's like having a big roar. It's like rah, you know, like it's kind of like a Hulk, Incredible Hulk movie, and it can definitely be, and it's accelerated here with this Mars, Pluto, Venus, and this Saturn, Mercury, Sun. So some of the time it could be completely also dangerous with this Uranus being at a square to Venus, Mars. very dangerous as to what makes somebody huff and puff all of a sudden. So some of the time it's kind of like about this gust of wisdom, gust of faith, or suddenly maturity. And this can happen a little bit clearer and a little bit more careful. For example, oh, I don't want this in my life anymore. I don't want this in my life. This is how I do it usually, because I'm a pussycat. I've had to face a lot of scary stuff in my life. So, you know, I'm a pussycat. So I'm just like, okay, so I sort out my paperwork. Okay, I've bought a new computer, for example. Great. I've done this. Okay, great. This is also very good for Virgo moon. It's like, okay, so I'm seeing how the sequence works, but by this moon on the 26th, it's probably already done. It's like, I brushed my hair today. I did the bed. I did my homework. You know, I've done all the chores and all the errands. I don't owe anybody. I got everything together. I filed everything. I filed the reports. I've done the work. You know, I've done the dues. You know, there's this very, very nice feeling that Virgo full moon may bring to some people. It's like, I've already crossed out all the things that I wanted to do, and sometimes even all the things that I wanted to be. And here sometimes one by one, these finished projects, as I suppose also the sun in Pisces does speak of endings. And okay, all these finished projects, all these last words, all these spoken things, all of the things that you had to do, all the errands, you know, all the ticking of boxes, all the chores have gotten you to a very nice what? Very nice what? Very nice place? Well, this is kind of crazy, isn't it? So basically, some of the time, like, I'm already feeling it coming on because I'm very subtle. I also have Virgo aspects, Mars and Venus. Never mind. So basically, through subtlety and careful planning, careful, you know, time spending, you know, understanding that you got to do the chores, understanding that you got to like wash the sheets and clean the floor, and be careful what you conduct with people. Don't argue, you know, don't jam people up, you know, don't make sense of things you don't have to make sense of. Very, very functional. If you're a very clear person, it's going to be amazing. This is going to be amazing for a person that's already done their errands. So I definitely, I mean, I respect you regardless. Either way, you can do as you like. But, you know, like, as you kind of are doing the chores and the errands, and you're making it very, very free and open as to what the world is going to become for you. You know, so it's kind of like, oh, I got my passport stamped. That gives me more places to be. Oh, I got my errands done. That makes more free time to do other things. Oh, I've finished or packed up or planned out that part of my life. That means I'm feeling more sturdy and sophisticated. So this is like baby steps. In my case, I'm doing it in baby steps. Maybe you don't have to do this. Maybe you're more efficient than me. Maybe you got apps organizing you. You got like personal assistants doing all this stuff for you. You got like cleaners and cooks. I don't have cleaners and cooks. I got to clean and cook myself, and, you know, also organize my life, you know, as I go. So maybe basically what happens here is you see that each time you do something, you kind of also get a little bit adventurous. It's like, I've done that already. The cycle ends. Oh, okay, well, I finished that, so I can kind of imagine doing something else. So you're basically blocking yourself off from chaos very slowly. And this is what I'm doing. This is what I've done my whole life. You know, doing the errands, making sure everything sits together, making sure everything's tight, nice and clean. And inevitably you're like, wow, wait a minute. Like, you like wake up to a completely new reality. Like, oh, actually, I think I'm going to do something else. You know, so after packing all of these bags, after making sure that everything's clean, after making sure everything's tight and everything sits, it kind of slowly takes care of you, and you can tell, okay, I've canceled out my debt, I've cleaned up my errands, I made sure that everything's done that I promised. And then eventually you have so much more free time and so much more maybe even reputation or ability or opportunity to give yourself that next level, which is absolutely fine. But in certain cases, it's going to be done in a completely different way. And I get it. So sometimes people have stagnation. They have stagnation in their body, in their minds, or in their world. Like, you know, they're going kind of all crazy. Very easy for people to get jealous. Very easy to look at how things are done by other people and get very jealous. And I'm not feeling like they kept it together. like they haven't kept their house together, they haven't kept their errands together, they haven't kept their paperwork going, they haven't paid their debts or something like that. And what I'm seeing for, you know, for you guys that tend to do this is sometimes there's a really big change. Like, right, I'm going to church, or like, right, I'm going to be, I don't know, a grandmaster of this or that, you know. So there is like a very, very, very big window here as to where people suddenly might want to do things or might want to be. If you are a compromised person, pay attention. If you are very easily hurt, if you have very thin skin, be careful, especially around people that might suddenly change. A sudden change is likely with any Saturnian event. A sudden wanting to be bigger than one is, a sudden need for violence or attention. And in certain cases, yeah, if you have yourself been known for being kind of crazy or angry, or sometimes you don't know what's happening to you, you don't know where it's coming from, you just want to destroy stuff, careful now, because we're also approaching, we're approaching Saturn, you know, like the sun is not totally on Saturn. We are approaching a time, there is going to be no more of that. Very careful. So for example, if you lash out and you hit your wife, for example, you hit your spouse, you might not be able to just like, yeah, okay, I did it and we'll forget about it. Now we're a happy family. Look at us in that family photo. Look, normal. That's not going to do the same thing. It's not going to have the same feelings. People have a hero mode in Dragon Year anyway. That's part of the spectrum. There is no way to reverse it. There is no way to reverse it. So for example, if you ever done something crazy like ruthless drinking and driving or anything, car accidents, oh my God, this is so scary. There are no ways to save a person here if they've done something ruthless. For example, certain ruthless or heartless behavior is this, and that's it. That's it. It's not like, oh, it's okay, we'll get this guy to hospital and the paramedics come and it's fine. You know, if you've also been prone to recklessness, if you've done anything really bad to yourself, if you also practice self-harm, can't undo it now. You cannot change it now. So it's important to see that as we are looking at permanence, we are looking also at Pluto to a degree, power and might and feelings and all of these emotions that are lurking underneath that make things go. And yeah, there are so many stories with also this kind of slightly heartless Neptune at the end of Pisces that we're going to cross before we go into Aries in March. There are so many relationships broken, there are so many houses destroyed, there are so many giving and feeling things absolutely abandoned and aborted. We don't want this to go on. We don't want the cycle to go on. And sometimes, some of the time, what Pisces might offer is snip, no. Yeah. Snip, no. Like this. How do you deal with it? So for example, if you had fights time and time again and you've been forgiven and forgotten, and you allowed like Jesus Christ or something else to be your main focus, for example, or you let your culture, your territory, or your group of people be your main focus. Now it's like, no, snap, no, snap. It's a very, very hard time for you if you have always been kind of okay in a story. Like, person is like, yeah, he's my bud, like I'll forgive him anything, he's my buddy, I don't care, yeah, he screams, yeah, he drinks, he's my buddy, you know. So sometimes people protect a person who could potentially be a criminal or who could potentially be on the other side of the law. And there are certain people that are still in the game and they're still, like, for example, rude, disorderly, abusive, or illegal in some way, you know, and they're still getting somebody or some kind of help or some kind of care depending on their karma and their overall worldview and functionality of the world. You know, willy-nilly, yeah, you got to keep on doing the work, you got to keep on putting the time, you know, you got to be a good person. And then some of us that are not prepared sometimes for, like, sometimes grandeur, sometimes people that are not prepared for that big new world, that next vision, which can come to some they're not sure of themselves sometimes, but sometimes another person can lift them up. Come on, you're going to the next level. Come on, you're going to be even better off. That can happen. And also in some cases, there's going to be like, nah, this is going to stay here. Or like, this is going. So yeah, definitely being slammed behind bars or being unable to recover from an accident, that kind of thing is very likely these days. So I'm not telling you to necessarily be careful, because I'm seeing that there are lots of different lives and lots of different ways that people feel about themselves and each other. There's no need to give this a Slavic overtone or like European overtone and tell everybody to do the same kind of thing. I'm not going to be like that. Every single person has their own frequency and their own mind about what is and what isn't worth it in life. And sometimes that is that. Like you're hearing neighbors screaming, that is that. You hear police cars shooting, that is that. Hearing somebody else, I don't know, like trying to get on stage, playing their ukulele or mandolin. Okay, that is that. Somebody else trying to make a home, somebody else, a teen mom making a baby. Okay, that is that. You don't need to make it a joke as well. And that's actually the unfortunate part of the story. As I did talk about gossip before and about the stellium and Aquarius, there is definitely a kind of sad and shady part of the story, because people do like to put people in boxes during these days, and sometimes they're very quick to cross somebody out or to put somebody into the story, and like just the archetype or the character, sometimes just the facial features win. It's like, oh, that person looks like a good person. Okay, they're going with me. Okay, that's it. Like they really like to put somebody in a bundle sometimes as well. And it can be very unfeeling. So people are very quick to judge. It's not just quick to judge. Anything's medicine. Everything is for the greater healing of humanity, of course. But in certain cases, certain people might not really be understood or seen. Also with this Lilith, another thing that I'm seeing, people put in boats, for example, or people trafficked in cars, like that kind of thing. Somebody just being put on the team, somebody just being signed up to a job without even having sufficient credentials or paperwork. Very easy. Having a foolish or even lying CV and then just being put into a team. Like, I don't know how I got there. I don't know why I'm here. So we have to be, I feel, our own best friend and solve our problems or questions on the inside, as sometimes also to know one is to be one, It is always great to pay attention to the individual feelings, wants and needs, as Dragonia is always going to have that individualistic, always uniqueness to it. But then there's also this other thing. If you are around judgmental people, do you think that you are not judgmental at all? If you have been placed next to a heartless, angry, deceiving person, do you think that there is absolutely nothing to do with you in the story? Are you still playing a game with yourself? So that's the thing. There are sometimes safety in numbers situations, and sometimes families, homes, and conglomerates of people can solve you and help you. As I said before, with the Saturn-Sun conjunction, it is kind of about universities and churches and grand groups and grand environments like stadiums. And in some cases, you've got to be quick and realize where that is taking you. But this is not for everybody to hear, because I do definitely see how people maybe don't want to be swayed. They already got their bearings, they already got their talk, they already got their walk. And I would be innocent to say, I know better than you. So thank you very much, enjoy. And I'll see you next time. Check out my caption section. Check out my Patreon, my website if you like. All good, thank you.